Hello everyone, and I hope you're all doing fine. We're today here in Yakutsk, that's in good old Mother Russia, all the way in the north, and it's one of the coldest places on Earth. I think they measured one of the coldest temperatures ever, and I can prove it to you right now, and this is actual temperature they're having now is minus 46 degrees centigrade, so it's pretty chilly outside. It's better stay here in the cockpit. And today I want to try something new and to basically go a little bit into detail. I'm apologizing already if I go too much into detail, and if it's getting too complicated, please let me know in the comments, and I'm very happy to explain or to answer any questions in case you should have. Something I want to talk about today is the comparison between flight simulation or simulators in general and real life, in this case real life aviation. And I'm very lucky. I have the chance in real life to fly airplanes, and many of the airplanes I flew and I'm flying are also represented in Flight Simulator FS2020. I thought we could basically see how icing is simulated in the flight simulator, and I've noticed a couple things. Lately I've been trying out a little bit and playing around with ice accretion on the airplane in the sim, and it's first of all really cool to see that it's implemented. I remember older flight simulators, they had not simulated, but on some of the aircraft add-ons you could find ice accretion on windscreens or airframes and wings. Some of them I remember, one of them at least was the Majestic -8 Q400. The other one I think was from PNDG, the small turboprop they had, the Jetstream I think. And it was not simulated as such, but it was basically a visual add-on, and I really liked it back then already. I always thought it was very pity that it's not simulated in a way that I'm actually feeling the weight of the ice, or things like I'm having difficulties to trim, or I'm losing airspeed, and obviously this is very difficult to simulate. But I think Microsoft and the Soko Studio, they've done a great job. I'm not trying to criticize here in any regards. I'm just basically trying to see how it is done in the sim, and how it would be, or is there a difference in real life, and if yes, what is it? I have to be honest, I was struggling a little bit to find ice right now. I hope we have here. I can see some clouds in front of us. I'm gonna take off and try to see if there's enough moisture in those clouds up ahead, and I will see if we get some icing. Minus 46 degrees. Now again, in real life it would probably be too cold. As a rule of thumb, you say below minus 40 degrees, it's probably too dry to have moderate or severe ice accretion on an airframe, but because we're in the simulator and we want to find out how real it is, let's go and check it out. Alright guys, here we are in the air. Temperature now changed to minus 35, not really sure why, but let's see. So far, and I'm being honest here, I'm really having trouble finding ice, but I left the pitot heat off on purpose. I just want to see if something happens if we don't turn it on, as we should in real life, obviously. One thing I've noticed in real life as well, usually if you fly into clouds, the temperature jumps by like 1 or 2 degrees. Usually from colder to getting a little bit warmer. One other thing that I want to mention here as well is, especially if you're flying a jet aircraft in real life, the faster you fly, because of the skin temperature, and this is trying to explain quickly, is the airflow around the airframe has friction, and the faster you fly, the higher the friction is, and it will heat up the airframe by a few degrees, and this usually prevents having ice accretion too soon. What I realized from flying, for example, just to give you an example here, on the Dash 8, which is not a really fast aircraft, but we're having like 220, 210 knots indicated at an altitude of between 200 and 250, flight level 250, so it's between 20,000 and 25,000 feet. Usually ice accretion is starting at around -4, -5 degrees centigrade, which is absolutely normal because of the skin temperature and the friction that we have. Very rarely I've seen ice building up on the airframe, even a little bit above those temperatures. So usually if you have 0 or just -1 or 2 degrees, you don't really have to worry too much about it, because there most likely is basically zero ice. Like I said, in general there can be, for example, if you have super cooled water droplets hitting the aircraft, is basically water droplets from clouds that are having a temperature below 0 degrees Celsius, and they're in liquid state, but as soon as they hit a solid material like a wing or the aircraft itself, it will shock freeze immediately. And this is something that pilots are aware of, and we're obviously having an open eye and looking out for those things. They can be really dangerous because this super cooled water can basically freeze in areas of the airplane where we don't have anti or de-icing equipment. So the water can get into slots, into the flaps, into openings on the wing, or ventilation of the wing, and then freeze inside the wing, which can really harm aircraft systems if it gets that far. And yeah, I really seem to be very unlucky here with ice. Let me see if I can help a little bit by just changing it into a snowstorm here. Alright guys, I'm back again. I helped out a little bit, sorry for that, I was really trying, but it didn't really freeze. Temperature now rose up to -11 degrees centigrade, and look here, suddenly we have starting to have ice here on the airplane. As you can see, the airspeed already gave up, so our instruments already starting to freeze up outside. If we're going to take a look outside of the aircraft now, you can see that it's already starting to show. And I really like the way they did it. It's for my taste, it seems a little too even and too perfect. It's in real life, usually you're gonna have, depending on the intensity of the moisture you have in the clouds or in that area, you're gonna have ice build up usually at the very, very leading edge of the wing. Here you can see on the very side of the wing you're gonna have it, and it already looks like you're having it on top of the wing and on the back window underneath the wing. This usually only happens if you're, let's say you're in a climb in IMC or in icing conditions, and you're starting to have ice accretion under the wing. I hope you can see it with the mouse cursor. Having ice here in this area is really, really dangerous, especially it can really disturb the airflow, and you're basically going into a straight stall because the air will separate from the wing below and above, obviously. Usually you're going to have ice here in this area at the very, very leading edge, and obviously on all the parts that attack the airflow from the very from this area, basically everything facing the aircraft into the wing. Let's go back in. what I can feel, and this is pretty well made, I think. Let's go to full power here, because you can start to feel the aircraft getting heavy. We're here at 2,100 feet, and I'm really struggling now to maintain altitude. Slowly all the way backstick here, and I can feel the airplane building up the ice outside on the airframe. Plane is getting heavy. Speed, basically flying pitch power, full power right now. I don't know the speed, I'm just guessing. But I can feel I'm getting slower here. I'm really struggling to maintain altitude. And this is something that's really happening in real life, obviously, as well, because of the ice buildup. The only difference, obviously, in the sim, this has a limit. It will not go on forever. Because I'm pretty sure in real life, with those temperatures and that much ice on the airframe, I would probably be very close of losing control of the aircraft and starting to stall. Here I'm struggling, but still perfectly fine. I can fly turns if I'm not increasing the load factor too much. I'm just perfectly okay. So this definitely in real life, time is ticking here, and if you don't exit the icing conditions in a timely manner, you're gonna be in for a treat for sure. I wouldn't be able to keep it in the air most probably for that long. Alright guys, and now I just want to show you something that is from one of the flights I had a couple of years ago. First I'm gonna try to explain what it is. This is the windscreen Viper from a Dash 8. And the tip you see here, this pin, is the size of a small finger from a human hand. It's called the ice detector we have. It's just in front of the front windscreen. And it does what it says. It's here to see ice build up, to get an idea of how much ice is outside on the airframe. And what we can see here, that is already quite a lot building up, and that was built up within approximately a minute or two. It was going pretty quick. This was the beginning. I have another picture showing like a minute or two later. Just to give you a quick summary here, we were flying over the European Alps, and 21,000 feet, if I remember correctly. Outside air temperature here was only -8 degrees, so not really that cold. But that day we had an inversion, so the temperature stayed the same at many flight levels. So we had -8 degrees at 21,000 feet. But all the way down to basically flight level 150, so 15,000 feet, we had the very same temperature. Usually you can say you're losing 2 degrees Celsius per 1,000 feet. So the calculation for us was very easy. We were at 21,000 with -8. So descending a couple thousand feet would basically go into 0 degrees, and we would lose the ice on the airframe. And that day, that was the plan we executed. So we started descending, and unfortunately we had to realize that the temperature is not increasing, so ice could build up more. We tried for a couple minutes, and we then turned around and exited icing conditions. Just to show you 2-3 minutes later, this is what we're facing. Now it's hard to see here on the picture because everything's the same color. We were in IMC, in instrument meteorological conditions. This is it. It goes all the way up there, and that's quite a lot. And we could feel the aircraft starting to vibrate very heavily, and the attitude increased as well, so we were really struggling with maintaining altitude as well. The airplane was getting really heavy. If this is the amount of ice you could see just in front of us, in front of the cockpit window, then I could only imagine how much ice we had on the back of the aircraft, on the horizontal stabilizer, on the wings. Just to quickly explain, this was a turboprop aircraft, and turboprop aircraft, it was a -8. They have pneumatic boots on the wings leading edge, and those blow up by pneumatic pressure, and they basically, by blowing up, they crack the ice. And I hope I have a photo here somewhere. Here you can see, sorry for the very bad quality here, but I hope it's visible more or less. The black you can see, this is from the cockpit window, photo back to the wing. The propeller spinner here was also covered in ice, and the black you can see here is the wing leading edge, and this is a rubber mat, a rubber boot, which is inflating, and you can see it was already breaking the ice here. In between the boot sections, here and here and here, you can still see the ice because it's not breaking away there, because this part is basically the section between the individual boots, and it will not blow up, so the ice there stayed. Here, this is what I found. I think it's a little bit easier to demonstrate here. This is the wing leading edge, and this is the rubber mat, the rubber boot we call it, and this is in the when the system is off. It's basically a flat surface, a smooth surface, and this is a rubber boot which is blown up pneumatically, and this is how it looks like if it's blown up. It's basically giving those small ripples in the wing section, which is breaking the ice, and the ice then can fall off. The system just inflates for a couple seconds, then deflates again into this state, letting more ice build up, and then when there is enough, it will blow up again and break once more. The system on the -8 had two settings, slow and fast. So the fast cycle, I think if I remember correctly, was 204 seconds. So every 204 seconds, all of the wing boots inflated and deflated, and then the cycle was starting again from the very beginning. So it was the inner section, the mid section, the outer section of the wing, and those were blowing up for a couple of seconds, then deflating again. The next section was blowing up, deflating, and then so on. And the reason for that is we cannot really blow up all the section at once because we don't have that much pneumatic pressure in the system. So we had to do it one by one. This is how the wing works on jet aircraft nowadays, on modern jet airliners. When I was flying on the 320 and the 321 and the 19, those and all other jet aircraft, they don't use rubber boots and pneumatic pressure. They use engine bleed from the engine exhaust, and those are then sent into the wing leading edge with the tubes, and this is basically super hot air, and they're heating the wing leading edge from the inside. Very effective system, I have to say. I never really had issues on jets. Later on the 787, I had a automatic system. We had ice detectors there. You didn't really have to turn the system on and off anymore. It was a pre-flight check on the ground. You set it to auto, and the system then in the air was detecting ice, turning engine, wing, anti-ice, and so on and off, and basically going into a cycle. And it took absolutely care of itself. Wonderful system, really, really advanced. I'm very happy for it. I enjoyed it. On the Airbus, we had to turn it on and off. On the 787, on the 777, this is 777 is a little different. You have to do it there, but on the 787 is fully automatic. Here, quickly, just to show you what can happen, and just to explain what it is. We're looking here at the outer fuselage of a Dash 8. It was on the very same flight I had with the heavy ice accretion, the picture I showed you before. Basically, what happened is, if you have moderate or severe ice accretion on turboprop aircrafts, you're going to have a lot of ice on the descending blade, on the propeller blade. So because the blade, the propeller is turning, you're going to have centripetal force acting on it, which is basically pushing away the ice, building up on the descending blade, and in layman's term, you're basically going to have ice flying around all over the place, and some of it might hit the fuselage as well. So at the very area where the propeller is, opposite to the fuselage, and on the Dash 8 300, I think it was row 4, when you were sitting on row 4 in the cabin, in the passenger cabin, you were right next to where the propeller was. And this section outside was reinforced by a so-called ice shield. So no harm done. This looks very bad, but this is basically the purpose of this ice shield, is to protect the fuselage from ice shedding onto the aircraft. It sounds very scary. It's like you're sitting inside a trash can and someone is hitting you with a hammer. It's very loud. It's if you're not used to, or if you're not prepared for it, it's pretty scary, to be honest. But this is what's happening. It's ice just being thrown at the aircraft, and constantly, as long as you're building up the ice. So this is how it looked like when we landed. Looks heavy, but that's what it's there for. So by the way, they just changed this ice shield 2 weeks ago, so it was brand new, and yeah, unfortunately I broke it there, but things happen. Let's see, this one is an older one. It's not from the same flight. Here what happened is we basically lost the front window heating, and this is how it looks like if the front windows freeze up. It was also on a Dash 8. I was on a night flight to Berlin, I think, and absolutely impossible to look out. Yeah, descending to lower altitudes, hoping it will melt again. And that was in the night as well, so we had to turn off the lights to be able to even find the runway in the end. But no worries, it melted again. We descended and the temperature was just above the freezing point, and we got rid of it. So landing was fine. Yeah, well, that was basically it. I hope it gave a little bit of an insight into icing events in real life, comparing to Microsoft FS2020, which again, I'm not criticizing anything. It's just a little bit different in the sim. Real life obviously is real life, and every event will be different. It's nothing you can program. It's not gonna be copy paste. Every time it's gonna be something else you have to look out. Generally speaking, I would say because of, like I explained, the skin temperature, usually ice doesn't really start at 0 degrees, which I've seen the sim at 0, and you're in a cloud with a little bit of moisture, poof, it starts, and you will have ice on the airframe. In real life, not really that predictable. It can come and go at different temperatures. Like I said, depending on the speed you're flying, usually you have it with a little bit less than that. I encountered on the Dash 8 with, like I said, with -5, -6 degrees centigrade, Celsius. And on the jets, I never really had any issues because you're flying above the weather. And if you have -40 degrees or colder, usually the air is too dry to have ice crystals, and therefore you're not going to encounter ice accretion in that extent. And then moving on into more modern airplanes with fully automated systems, you don't really have to worry about it anymore, unless the system fails, obviously, then you have to manually operate it. Other than that, jets never really had a lot of ice. We're just too fast and too high on those planes. Turboprops is a problem, a little bit slower, and they're mostly flying in exactly those altitudes where you will find ice, which is between 15 and 25,000 feet. And it's difficult to climb above the weather because it's just not possible. Dash 8 300, for example, we had a ceiling of 25,000 feet. On the Q400, it's 27, if I remember correctly. You cannot outrun weather there. You're gonna be inside. You're gonna be right there. Yeah, I will see. Maybe in the future they'll get some updates on the weather, and ice accretion will be a little more realistic. And just when it comes to ice buildup on the airframe, maybe there is not going to be a limit, and at one point you will not be able to control the aircraft anymore. Would be nice to see it. Obviously, it would take some of the fun, because you really have to watch out for those clouds then. You cannot just close your eyes and fly through them. But it is a simulator. It tries to simulate real life, real aviation, and I think therefore yeah, I wouldn't mind having it a little more realistic, but nevertheless, I'm still enjoying the way it is. I really hope you learned something, and if you have questions or something that is unclear, or maybe my accent or the way I explained it or whatever it is, hit me up in the comments. I really promise I will answer all your questions. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.